Alright, and welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. The strange potting situation before I get to starting on today's project. Today's project's here, but I'll just kind of talk a little bit about how it wound up in a pot like this. It's just kind of resting in the pot here. Was part of a bigger clump that actually fit really nicely in this whole training pot here. The one side and then the other side were kind of like, instead of growing up, it was actually kind of growing out and almost looked like it was falling away from each other. And then one day, I almost thought I was going to have to throw the thing out, but one day I took it out. I obviously didn't have the YouTube channel yet or anything like that, but I pulled it out and there was a big rotten section in the middle. And so I took all the rot out, and then not that long ago, well actually when I took all the rot out, I put this one back on this side of the pot, and then I had the other one in this side of the pot here. And not that long ago, I pulled that other one out, repotted that, and it's actually looking pretty good. And I've just been letting this one steadily regain back some strength. You can tell it has. What I've actually been doing is I've been cutting the apex really hard, trying to let the bottom kind of widen out a little bit. It's definitely clumped together now, a lot better than it was with that rotten piece in the middle. But since I had this empty side here, this is a little small willow leaf ficus cutting that I've just kind of let get an escape root. It's got an escape root in there, it's holding. This is a Microcarpa. It actually came from this tree. I found some old pictures from this, and that was original cuttings from this tree from the first repot. I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, I've been cutting back the apex really hard, hoping that the bottom widens out a little. I'm gonna just kind of prune up some of these super leggy ones just because I've got it in here, and it's a little easier to work on than on the ground outside. Been pretty much leaving these bottom ones all alone, hoping they kind of stretch out, get some aerial roots along the base. But I have some things in mind for this guy, and not really soon, but this summer probably sometime. That one's actually been a really long, awkward one I let kind of go out. Yeah, I was getting the arrow root off there. It's probably why I was letting it go, but really wasn't in a very good spot. It was growing straight down, and so is this one. Around here to my actual subject. This guy right here is this was in May of 2019, like I said, when I originally repotted this big clump. I took, this was a whole bunch of cuttings. This was probably like 8 or 9. I was trying to do like a fusion project. I had them all tied together with wire and everything. And I waited about a year, and it had growth coming up out of there, but I could see that it was only coming from a couple of them, and it was actually really kind of strange because it was from the 2 biggest cuttings. So I kind of undid the wire where I had them tied together for fusion and everything, pulled out all the dead sticks, and it was just these 2 that were left. They're about the same size, and they were actually starting to fuse together a little bit, so I've left them like this just in the hope that it would kind of continue fusing and everything. Last year, I don't know, I don't really remember exactly when it was that I set it in here. Actually, I probably set it in here when I took the other half of this one out. In that I just had some room here. This is a whole bunch of good substrate that I didn't want to waste. And this little basket here was starting to get some dry rot and fall apart and everything. I do remember when I first posted that project, everybody was telling me that this would only last like 6 months. I mean, May of this year would have been 3 years. it would have, I could probably even get another few months out of it or whatever, but it's about time. I'm gonna pull it up out of here and see what I can do. I got a few pots in mind for it, but I want to kind of see what the root spread's going to look like. I am going to repot it. We had our cold snap last week. We've got nothing but high 50s for lows for a long time. We do have like a couple days coming up with lows getting right around 50, 51, but it should be fine. If we get anything out of the ordinary, I'll probably just go ahead and bring it inside or something like that. But I used to repot these things all the time before I really knew you were only supposed to do them when the lows were above 50 or whatever. And I really haven't lost anything from repotting. The only time I've ever really lost a ficus was from defoliating it too damn much before I really learned it. That's not a good idea. But anyway, you can see here, if I haven't mentioned it yet, what I did was, about 2 weeks ago, is I cut this guy back really hard. It was probably about out to here. I cut it back really hard. I also cut the willow leaf back too, because I plan on repotting both of them very soon. But this one's already getting it's already budding out. Already got a couple growing tips there. Maybe I didn't get them when I pruned hard, but you can definitely see the little buds along the stem there and everything. So I'm going to help it off with all the old leaves so I can get a better look at it. Pull it up out of here, see what the root spread looks like, and decide what I'm going to do from there. Some things around, trying to give you guys a little bit of a better view of what I'm doing here. I figure after I get this thing defoliated, I'll go ahead and take the Dremel and work the two wounds a little bit, and maybe do a little pruning before I get in this new pot. Whatever this exact type of Microcarpa is, it was sold to me as Green Island. It's probably Green Mound, but whatever it is will really kind of surprise you in that it really does get very fine root hairs and doesn't ever really seem to develop too much of a taproot, which is kind of a good thing. But then sometimes, like, this thing is rooted through the basket and right on into the other pot or whatever. But sometimes, like, I'll pull it up out of there and there'll be almost nothing. It'll just be those two sticks with barely enough to kind of even get it to hold together while I repot it. May will be 3 years. It's time enough in this little pot here. I mean, I may just move it into a better training pot. Kind of all just depends on, like I said, what the root spread looks like. Alright, so now I'm trying to get a little bit of a... from this angle here, the background of the other tree is kind of getting in the way, but you can see where the twin trunks are now. This one's strongest growth is kind of growing towards that other one. I was trying to let it grow a little bit, just in hopes that it would take care of that wound some, but now they're going into each other some. We can't have that. There's a little dead piece there, but at least a little piece of it. I'm definitely going to get the piece growing off of this one into that one. And then you definitely can't have this thing towering over that. So I'll probably take that there. Got a little aerial root that has actually reached the ground there from there. So I may leave that, even though I don't know if I want that much growth going between the trees like that. And it's really hard for me to know for sure exactly what you guys can see. You guys should be able to see some of those little buds coming out, which is why I just decided to go ahead and go through with the repot today. And that's, you give it that hard prune, signals the auxins to build more leaves or whatever. They're starting to bud out. So when I repot it, it really should help all that, all that new root growth. So before I go narrowing down the pot choices, and I'll have to bring in my little setup that I usually use when I repot. I'm just gonna kind of lift it up out of here and see what it looks like. Let me back it up a little bit, see if you guys can see a little bit more. And after me running my mouth about these things not really getting much of a taproot, watch this thing have a big taproot holding it in there. It does have one root. There's about 4 down there that are kind of holding it in place. I don't want to disturb this little willow leaf too much, because I don't want to take that out today. Sorry about the camera angle there. Mr. John Holfeld still hasn't allowed me to buy that thing from him. So I definitely, even if I had, I wouldn't want to be putting my dirty hands all over it to adjust. So it's going to have to be what it is for now. All right, nice healthy roots. That one does seem to be holding it in. There are, as I feel around down there, there are 2 or 3 that are slightly bigger. As I look, sometimes when I water this, especially when I'm watering this other one here, I wonder if I'm watering too much, too little. Sometimes it's really hard to tell in a bigger pot like this. Just like I said, when it's down on the ground like I have it. But that's a look at the other one's trunk now. You can't really see it when the other one was in there. Try to get it loose from here. So when I repot it, I want to use all new soil. And any of this older stuff, I'm going to want to just leave in here. Because even if I do repot this guy soon, this bigger one soon, I can use all this soil for some kind of plant I have in development. It is the older mix that I use. It's a little less expensive than the one I use now. It's got the turfus in it, but it's still good. I just decided I was going to switch to the better mix for most of my trees. Kind of thought I might have to break it to get it off. And get some of that substrate out of there. It'd be a shame to disturb those aerial roots too much. I like to save them. And there we go. Not all root ball. I'll rake that out quite a bit once I move my my other setup in here. All right, and I don't know what's wrong with my brain here lately, but I just now realized I forgot to try to work the wounds just a little bit with my Dremel before I got it repotted. I wanted to get it while it was still in there and good and solid. I'll just have to hold the bottom of it. I do it when I get it in the new pot, but after I kind of get it all chopsticked in there or whatever and everything, I don't want to have to disturb it anymore by shaking it around with this. So I'm just going to do it now. Just hold the base. I really, if this one here would have taken off like this one was, this one would look a lot better. This one, I have cut it at an angle. This had quite a bit of strength in it. It's got buds on there, so it's going to get some new growth out of there. By the time this thing matures up and becomes, something I can wire and everything, it really won't matter anyway. These things should be long healed up. But I'd still like to just try to spur a little more healing here. So alright, and that was really awkward. The angle I was trying to do there or whatever, but anyhow, this one worked out pretty good. Got the edges there kind of roughed up a little bit. And as long as this piece here starts growing, or keeps growing, should heal up just fine. This one too, this is just going to take a little bit longer because it was flat. I'd take that Dremel and dig some more stuff up out of there, but I don't want to create a hole or anything. So, alright, I keep trying to remind myself to get a bigger black or brown serving bowl like this. Use it upside down to just kind of rake the roots out. Makes for a little bit of a better background. But I always get to the store and forget. So start picking at it some a little bit. try to get a couple of these longer ones. I want to try to save some of them that are spreading out the right way, but there's some that were going straight down. Yeah. I hate to go out of my way to save aerial roots that a lot of people hate, but I like them. I'm going to try to actually wrap that up around there. Be out of the way while I work it. Where the two trunks are, they're definitely fused together. I mean, they're together tight, very little give. You can see just the slightest of seams between them. If I get this thing into a pot that I'm going to be happy with for a while, which, like I said, may end up being a train pot, just kind of depends on what this kind of final root ball looks like here. Definitely good and healthy from being left in there for 3 years. I got some decent roots coming off at the angle that would make it to Mari one day. If you watch me repot any of these out of potting soil, I almost always run them outside and hit them with the garden hose, but I don't think I'm going to do that to this one today. That original picture I showed at the beginning, you can see I had it in the straight. I say decent substrate. Not as good as what I use now, but it's decent. And that's a decent little root ball there, I think. Alright, now I'm going to go take a look at the few pots I had in mind for it and pick one. Alright, so I wound up picking this little brown round here with some feet. It's actually a Hippie Dad Bonsai pot. It's actually from before he ever even got a stamp or anything like that. He used to sell a lot of these on the auctions, on Facebook and everything. I haven't seen any for a little while, but I do believe I saw him post something about he was saving some for one of their club sales or something like that. But it's nice, solid, never used it before. Probably a little too soon to get this guy in a nice pot, but you know what? I got a bunch of them sitting around doing nothing. I went on a little pot buying streak there for a little while, and really had no plans for a lot of them, was just getting them. So I might as well use it for something. I got the aerial root here. I'd like to, as I was kind of, see if I can get it right around the edge of the root ball there. And then the way that root ball even was, got it off center in the pot a little bit. Some of the old traditionalists say you should do that. And it should be just the right size root ball to kind of hold it in there well. And keep this guy in the shade until it takes hold again. And we'll see what happens when it leaves out. Would like to keep it about this small. Maybe try to, like I said, once it leaves out, try to wire these branches just down just a little more or whatever. But I'll wait till it buds out and becomes a little more pot bound. After looking at it, I think that might be the side, but we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching.